Um, I want to first thank everybody for joining today. I want to especially thank our guest, Leroy Moore. Also a thanks to Pamela Crossan in the History Department for administrative support, and to Thin Lee, who's here and keeping us afloat with tech support. I also want to thank Tiffany Jones in the History Department, Jessica Luck in the English Department, and Jess Nairn in the Communications Department, and also Academic Affairs for supporting the event. Brief land acknowledgement. We recognize that California State University San Bernardino sits on the territory and ancestral land of the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, the Yuhaviatam. We recognize that every member of the California State University San Bernardino community has benefited and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1965. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, and we will work to hold California State University San Bernardino more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples. Leroy Franklin Moore Jr. is a writer, activist, archivist, and scholar, and now a doctoral student in linguistic anthropology at the University of California, Los Angeles. He's the founder of Krip Hop Institute and Krip Hop Nation, a movement that uses hip hop as a means of expression for people with disabilities. And I want to note also that Leroy has joined us twice before, first as the keynote speaker in the Services to Students with Disabilities Awareness Fair, and again with his colleagues Emmett Thrower and Tiny Garcia as part of the Conversations on Race and Policing, looking at racial violence against African-American people with disabilities. Moore's publications include Black Disabled Ancestors, the graphic novel Krip Hop Volume 1, 2019, the children's book Black Disabled Art History 101, and the spoken word CD and chapbook Black Disabled Man with a Big Mouth and a High IQ. He writes a regular column titled Illin' and Chillin' for Poor magazine. He's a leading activist regarding police brutality and wrongful incarceration of people with disabilities, and he is co-author with Tiny Gray Garcia of the book How Not to Call the Police Ever, also from Poor Press. His lecture series on the outskirts, race and disability, grew from his experiences with Black disability movement in London. Krip Hop emerged from his interest in Black musicians marginalized because of their disabilities. The mission of Krip Hop Project, Moore has written, is to get the musical talents of hip hop artists with disabilities into the hands of media outlets, educators, hip hop disabled and race scholars, youth hip hop conferences coordinators, and agents to report the latest news about musicians with disabilities. Moore has won many awards for his advocacy, including membership on the San Francisco's Mayor's Disability Council and the Local Hero Award from public television station KQED in San Francisco. He's networked with disability activists and artists around the world, traveling to South Korea for the Paralympics, to South Africa, Canada, Mexico, and others. I will share links in the chat for everybody to his work, Buried Voices, which was featured in Word Gathering, Journal of Disability Poetry in 2012. I'll share a link also to his interview with Judy Heumann on her show, The Human Perspective. And this was just in 2022. Also, I'll share links to the Krip Hop Institute and other materials from Mr. Moore's work. Thank you very much, Leroy Moore, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you once again for having me. I must say that I pack my agenda like I always do. I always pack my workshops. So I might have to skip around, but we can do this, okay? So a little description about me. I'm a Black man with gray hair on top. I have a sweatshirt with NWA on it. It has pictures of Martin Luther King and W.E.B. Du Bois, Mandela. I'm in my kitchen. In the background, there's a Krip Hop painting and things in the background. So that's a description about me. A little thing about land acknowledgement. I'm glad that we do land acknowledgement, but I think we need to go a little bit further and really support our Native Americans with anything, money, whatever we could do. I say this because I've seen a lot of land acknowledgement the last 2 years, and I just wondering, and that's good. I just want us as a society to go a little bit further in that being a part of and in solidarity with our Native American folks. I also want to spend at least 1 minute of recognition to Ryan Gaynor. He was an autistic youth of color that was shot at in San Bernardino a couple weeks ago. So I want to give knowledge to his family, to his community, and to his life. So, okay. So going on to my career of lecturing and in the Black community, I've been lecturing since the 90s around disability, police brutality, of course, with Poor Magazine and with Krip now, and now being in my PhD studies, bringing the Black community and the Black movements and past into disability. I think the work that's been done only focuses on disability rights and disability community. Also, to say all that, I need to start with, and I said, you usually in disabled circles and disability panels and disability work, we get caught up with an I story, and an I story is really good. We start with an I story, but we must come out of the I story and come to a we story, because disability is international. Disability has been around since Moses. Moses had a disability, so we must see disability as a we story, as a movement, as a culture, as a history, as a political lens. So I'm saying that, I'd like to go back to the I story, like introduce myself in my work. I grew up Black and disabled. I grew up in on the East Coast, the coldest place on earth, and that was not the North Pole, but Buffalo, Buffalo, New York. And I grew up seeing myself, which is really important. I've heard as a year so many disabled people saying that they didn't see themselves. My mother made sure that I saw myself. And the first thing my mother did is sat me at a TV and put on Porgy and Bess. And that's the first time I saw a Black disabled man on TV. And of course I was shouting, I was like, Mom, I'm on TV. because I thought Porgy was me. And I was like, Mom, Porgy is me. I was like, no, I was like, no, that's Porgy. But that's, that's the kind of education that my mom was doing back in the 70s, making sure that I see myself. The next thing that she did, she brought me to an organization called United Cerebral Palsy Association. And she brought me to that organization because the ED was a Black woman with my disability. So once again, my mom's like, okay, boom, this is your identity. So seeing Beverly Jackson was really a game changer for me at an early age. Seeing a Black disabled woman as the ED of a major organization. Also, early before computers, I also realized that I was Black and disabled. I didn't need intersectionality to tell me that. I knew that, I knew that going to a lot of nonprofits, trying to work with them, and I really saw that there's a lack of Black disabled people in those nonprofits, in those disability advocacy activism organization like ADAPT. ADAPT approached me. I told ADAPT, I was like, yeah, I'll protest with you around curb cuts, but you had to really get on this police brutality, because even back then in the 80s, I knew that a lot of people that were killed by the police were Black disabled people, especially Black disabled boys and men. So ADAPT's like, oh, we don't do that. I was like, well, I mean, how can I protest against curb cuts if I can't go outside because the police are shooting me? So you talk about intersectionality. I was doing that in the 80s with activists. So beyond that, I always wanted to see myself once again, Porgy, Pez Jackson, and so I took it on my hands to really challenge people, media, whatever. And three of my friends at the time, this is back in 79, 80, we did a whole campaign, a writing letter campaign. Now this is before computers. So we wrote letters to NAACP, Urban League, Jesse Jackson, Oprah was on TV. All these people, Cornel West, which is kind of funny that he's running for president. It's like, dude, you still haven't answered my letter back in the 80s. So anyway, so we wrote all these people to say, where are Black disabled people? And we got that corner. It's like, well, we don't know. And these are our elders at the time, the elders that had PhDs, and they didn't know. So because they didn't know, I continued to do research on my own, found Black disabled movements in London, England in the late 80s, Toronto in the late 80s and 90s, and even in South Africa. So I was like, okay, we're out there. And I started my own organization after coming back from London, England. Like St. Baldwin, once you go up to the mountaintop and you see what's there, it's hard to come back down and live like everything is okay. So I came back from London, England. I was going to go to Leeds University, because Leeds had the first disability studies program. but because I owed my school at the time, the school didn't release my transcript, so I came back home and I quit my job after doing an experiment outside of a CIL. I had I had two friends, one black, one white, both dressed to the T to go in and to get services or to get reference. So my white friend went in, he was in for like 2 hours, came back with all kinds of reference, even a job offer. It was like, wow. And my black friend went in and he was in there for 10 minutes, came out with nothing. I was like, okay, I see it. I see it so plain. And after that, I quit my job and I started was called Disability Advocates of Minorities Organization for people of color back in the 90s. I did that for 5 years, got burnt out of applying for grants, nonprofits. So you have to do the grant dance. They call it the grant dance. I just got tired of doing the grant dance. And it's funny because my father also did nonprofits, and I grew up with my father, and we were always waiting for the next grant to come in. And I told myself that I'll never do a nonprofit, and here I was doing a nonprofit. So anyway, I did that for 5 years, and I closed that, and then me and Patty Byrne got together and created Sins Invalid with other people. But really, it was me and Patty Byrne. And out of Sins Invalid came, as people know, Disability Justice. And during that time, also started what is now called Krip Nation. So that's a little background about myself. So let's get into the topic of the week. So I wanted to make this clear. I'm in the beginning stages of this topic, building Black Krip radical tradition from past to present. As you heard, my early years have built up to this point. In the mid-90s, I was chasing Black disabled movements, like I said, from UK to Toronto to South Africa. But when I got there in all these places, I missed it like a year or a month. And why did I miss it? Because most of them did not get the support from the community and from funders. So they had to close their doors, unfortunately. And all that history, all the arts, all this stuff is, from my point of view, has disappeared, unfortunately. I've interviewed 3 Black disabled activists from London, UK, and they told me that a lot of quote unquote Caucasian disabled organizations told them that they didn't have the knowledge to do their own organization and their own movements, which it's just unfortunate. But you can go on SoundCloud and go to my page. I interviewed 3 Black disabled activists from the UK. They talked about the time of Margaret Hill. Margaret Hill was one of the leaders of the Black disabled movement in the UK, in London. So you can go and listen to that. So coming back, I want to talk about terminology. Good hip hop as like hip hop, turn a negative terminology into a positive terminology. So Krip with a K, we put a K in it, and we wanted to turn Krip as a K into a positive activist kind of way of thinking, and we wanted to do that in hip hop and activism. And also back in the day, I wrote Tookie Williams. Tookie Williams was one of the lead members of the LA Crips, and of course on death row. And he wrote me back, and he said, "Yes, Leroy." That was one of the stories of the term Crip, that one of the members was disabled. It's like, oh, just call you Crip, as short as cripple. So I got that information from Tookie Williams, and so that's why I use it as a Black kind of history of the term Crip. We have Robert McClure as Crip with C, Crip Time, his book Crip Time, and I wanted to bring Crip into the Black community, into a Black perspective. So I came up with the term Black Cripping. Black Cripping means is an action verb. It means that when we go into places, into Black spaces, Black community, we have to crip it first to make them see that Black disabled people have been here since day one. So Black cripping is once again an action verb, and I also came up with the term Black crip radicalization, and there's stages to get to that stage of Black crip radicalization. And I'm going to play a couple of audios that explains that process, because it is a process. Because Black people have to go through, have to really shake off the religious and charity model, which really came from slavery. We have to really be honest, it really came from slavery. And because of that history, we never had a time to really challenge our way of thinking around disability in the Black community. The Black community, unfortunately, is still into the charity religious model of disability. And also to talk about those models, we have to realize that those models, really the social model, was discovered by Michael Albert, and and yes, he did great work. I'm not saying that, but we realized that he was a white disabled leader in the UK. So I'm saying that even Black disabled people have to come up with their theories and art to really get to this Black queer radicalization and to really think about, what does it mean to Krip the Black radical tradition, and what does that mean, and how can that become a reality? Like I said, I'm still in the first stages of doing this, so it's really new. Matter of fact, I ended my master thesis with a letter to Cedric Roberson, and sister now. It came up with the notion of the term Black radical tradition, and in that letter, I asked him, what do you think about this disability? Could disabled Black people be add to Black radical tradition? So I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna share some couple of audio. I won't play all of them because I know the time is not our friend. So let's play this one first. It's the interview that I talked about Black Black activism in London. My mouse is being stubborn. So this interview has three Black disabled activists from London, and they talk about the Black disabled movement that was happening in the 80s. Oh, my mouse. Oh my God. Sorry about that. I'm the Black crippled. You are listening to Krip Hop Radio. We'll cover everything around disability from the radical perspective, the music, the art, oh, come on. Are you serious?
Do you want to share screen, Leroy?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. All right, there you go. I'm sorry about that. Totally forgot. Okay, so this is on SoundCloud. I used to do a radio show for Poor Magazine. They have a radio station in East Oakland, and this is an interview that I did. Politics from Africa to the UK. Sorry about this. People say, check it out, Krip Hop Radio has so many studies. You seen and active in the movement. Were you back in the movement back then? No. So unlike Saida and Michelle, I wasn't born an activist, I was converted. And I wasn't born in the UK, so I was born in Nigeria, in Africa. And like I've told my two other sisters before, being born in Nigeria means you're either born into...
We weren't in contact with each other. But I really like Ayola as well and how he thinks. And I'm glad to be in a group with him. So when you sort of just being Black, you're isolated, and being disabled, you're isolated. So because there are some issues that you know, sort of like when you talk to like Michelle and stuff, you don't have to explain. And she doesn't say, no, you're just thinking about it. You're being paranoid. You know, those things don't happen. And so, but because I'm in Manchester, it's just telephone. We don't get to meet unless we go to Jamaica.
Okay, I won't play it all, but it goes on to explain, you know, what was the Black disabled movement in London and why they had to close their doors. Yeah. So that's that. And you know, not all is bad because there's the Black disabled movement in Brazil that's really kicking ass. I interviewed them a couple months ago. I won't play it, but and they are taking a different stance with their movement. They say that they really want to only concentrate on the Black community because they said that the disability community in Brazil don't have a clue around Black disabled Brazilians. So they wanted to only educate the Black community. So that's Brazil. And so also what has been really an obstacle to get to the Black community, and what I say is Black ableism. Now, ableism is like sexism, racism. Ableism is, you know, discrimination toward disabled people. So I came up with the term Black ableism. You can see a little here, it's a little right up on the Krip website. You know, talk about what is Black ableism and how the Black community must work to erase Black ableism, and how Black disabled people must heal our wounds and come back home to work on this subject. Because right now our wounds are wide open, and I think that's why there's very little work in the Black community around erasing Black ableism. So we must heal our wounds, and it's a long process, but we must do that, and we must come back to the Black community and do that work. And that work it has to be offline, because we are talking about really hand holding and bringing the Black community up to, you know, disability rights, disability justice, disability culture. Like I said, you know, some of our Black community are still in the religious charity model when it comes to disability. And so it's not their fault, it's the history of this country, and being under capitalism, you don't have time to really go back and heal and learn. So that's why I say it must be well, it could be a combination of online and in the community, but it must be in the community because it's going to be a lot of healing and a lot of handholding that we need to do. Okay, so I did because I'm a poet and I like to do poetry and I like to do political poetry. So I put Black ableism into a song that I did. Let's see, which one is this? Yeah. So last year, I bought Krip, PE Public Enemy's 1990 album, Fear of the Black Planet. I clipped it, and one of the songs is Fear of the Black Planet. I said Fear of a Black Disabled Man, and this is called Fight Black Ableism. We'll play some here. What's going on? Of course, a commercial, right? That one to work for me. So as that is thinking, yeah, must be attacked. Publicly fight the power. Black and disabled community, like Latina, got to go through the business. There's a fucking okay, I'll leave it there because there's so much to get to. I want to get through all of it. So you can go on YouTube and just Google Leroy Moore Fight Black Ableism, and you can see the whole album. Once again, Black Cripping hip hop. Hip hop just turned 50 last year. I have to say, it was kind of disappointing of the whole 50th anniversary, because once again, it did not mention hip hop artists with disabilities. So that's that. So on all of this and more, especially now being a graduate student, this is how I got to my topic, building Black Krip radical tradition from past to present. Even before reading Cedric Roberson's incredible book, Black Marxism, and he's the founder of Black radical tradition. I realized that very few are coming toward disability solely from a Black perspective. Even myself, all of my 30 plus years of working, writing, organizing, and even helping organizations like my nonprofit back in the 90s, DAMO, and also sent them out into my early days of Krip hop. In my years on boards of organization, I was running away from my Black community because of open wounds of what I called, Black ableism that I just shared you. But I also realized that it is not our fault, and that I and must I and most of the organizations that I helped start, we were using only disability theory, concept, philosophies, histories, arts, and culture through one lens, aka white disabled lens. Because at the time, there that's all we had, and because of Black ableism, we could not get into, our Black organizations, our Black movements. So, don't get me wrong, we did bring in our Black and brown disabled ancestors, but didn't Krip the Krip Black radical movements in their theories, like the Black radical tradition, Black arts movement. And there are many reasons why. One, like I said, open wounds from Black ableism. Two, so because we could not get into our Black and brown communities, we end up doing our work everywhere else, especially places that had funding to pay us. And three, to be honest, now I see the hijacking of disability justice from everywhere, from academic to grant foundations, took it from part of our roots of people of color to now it's everywhere. It's everywhere except deeply into the Black and brown community. So although the above is the case, I say that we must continue with the work of what I call cripping Black history and movements. So what do I mean by Black cripping? Like I said in the beginning, it means Black Krip radicalization of our minds and spaces that left us out or oppressing our accomplishments in the Black community, history and movements. After Black cripping and Black Krip radicalization, then we can continue to politicalize our Black community, Black history, culture, arts, music with Black disabled culture, politics, terminology, activism as Black disabled empowerment, aka living out loud and proud. So like I said, there's stages to this, and I wanna play these stages because it's really important. We can't just wake up and say, okay, we are Black radicalization. There's stages of really getting to the point that you are proud, and not only proud, but living politically as Black disabled people. And that's total different stages of being just just being Black and disabled. Living politically, historically, and culturally as Black disabled people means that you're at a stage where, you know, you are an activist and you are not trying to quote unquote overcome, which is almost impossible, overcome your disability. You're at a point that you are politicalizing your disability. So I'm gonna try to play most of this because this is really important because people's like, oh, but how do we get there? You know, Sins Invalid has the 10 principles around disability justice, and that's really good. But how do we get there? You know, how do we get there? So this tries to explain it.
This is Leroy Moore. This is entitled Reaching Up to Black Krip with a K, Radicalization in Stages. Stage 1. As a Black disabled person, we must see ourselves, but you ask how? It can start as little as seeing others who are Black disabled doing stuff in the community, online, or seeing or reading or hearing a Black disabled person. This can lead to Black disabled self-empowerment. This process must continue so it can erase internal ableism to be replaced with an eagerness to learn more, and in the process, you start to see that it is people's ableism that kept you in a non-achievable and lonely path of trying to overcome disability. And you realize that you must become an advocate and an educator. Stage 2, Black Cripping means for me when we enter a space that left us out or have oppressed Black disabled achievements, history, music, art, politics in the Black community, history movements. So when we must first take inventory of the Black ableism in the space, then come with our Black Krip politics, etc., with others, knowing that we have been wounded by our own, and we must be prepared, knowing it will take time to first get our Black community to recognize their Black ableism and why they need to change. Black Cripping is action, knowing that we were always there. So we are putting into the Black disabled experience with our own Black disabled expression, politics, and more. We must know that this process is ongoing and must go deeper than a hashtag. Black spaces can be movements, cultural expression, industries like Black music, arts, like what Krip Hop is doing in hip hop, in the work of Jade Bryan, companies, deaf talent in the music industry, etc., etc. Step 3, during and after Black grouping, then we will continue to politicalize our Black community, Black history, Black culture, Black arts, Black music with Black disabled culture, politics, terminology, activism, aka Black disabled empowerment, aka living into Black politics, movement, history, and future. We are going from oppression to erasure, to self-pity, to self-empowerment, to seeing disability as a political, cultural, historical, international identity and movement. Stage 4. To reach the stage of Black Krip radicalization, the person or group is way behind awareness and self-pride. They are politicalized and view that others in society must question what mainstream feeds us, thus is not satisfied with inclusion, but need liberation and revolution. We also lean on our Black disabled ancestors who gave us path to liberation. Also, at this stage, we are creating new theories, terminology, art, music, but not only for ourselves, but for generations to come. Don't get me wrong, at this stage, we will use all tools to stay solid and to bring others into Black Krip radicalization. Throughout the stages, while building to Black Krip radicalization, we must continue to build Black Krip, aka disability, culture, knowing that this is an ongoing process to add to. You ask how? One, through our research of Black disabled ancestors. 2, empowering ourselves outside of mainstream. 3, come together to build a we story. 4, Black Cripping, Black and disability theory. And 5, build our art, music, and culture. This has been Leroy Moore, Krip Hop Nation. Peace.
So yeah, so those are the stages that I came up with. People have their own stages, but I think it's really, really important to have the Black community go through these stages. It's not realistic that we're going to get a hashtag and that's it. That's not realistic. The realistic is like we need to put in the work, and also funders need to put in the money to make it happen. So this is long overdue. So how am I doing with time? I want to leave some quick questions.
We do still have a good, we have until 11:45 if we need, so about 20 minutes.
Okay, good. I really want to play. I know it's long, but I really want to play the letter I did for my ancestor Cedric Robertson, because that's really the key to getting deeply into the Black radical tradition. And like I say, I'm only in the beginning stages, but I see that and because of my education and my research and the hunger to really get to know, Black theory and Black history, Black radical tradition, I think can be open to Black disabled people. But I did a book a couple of years ago on the Poor magazine called Black Disabled Ancestors. And of course, so many of our Black disabled ancestors were political. Of course, disability culture wasn't around then. Disability studies wasn't around then. But many, led people to freedom. Of course, we know about Harriet Tubman and her disability. I did this year. I did what's called Black Resistance broadcast, and I focused on 3 Black disabled men. Ivory and Cecil. Okay, Cecil Ivory, Al Hitler, and I forget the other. Let me see if I can go to my website. These are on my website. But it's 3 Black disabled men, and all 3 of them led people to freedom. In their own way. Al Hitler was a jazz singer, but also marched with Martin Luther King Jr. at the time because of his political beliefs. His record label dropped him, but Frank Sinatra helped his career and got in on his label. Well, yeah. So Al Hitler marched with Martin Luther King. One of the pictures you see him holding a sign called Equal Opportunity and Human Dignity. He's the male with the sunglasses on. That's Al Hitler. And oh God, I'm so sorry. Like I said, he was an activist. He was an activist and also, as we know, a jazz singer back then. So okay. So that's one. Cecil Ivory is a picture of him as a wheelchair user. He led a sit-in protest at one of these sit-in counters back in the 60s. He was also on the chairperson of the NAACP, and I love his protest. He told the police that he was not taking a chair from the white consumers because he already had his wheelchair. I thought that was cool that he said that. So that's Cecil Ivory and Elias Hill. Elias Hill his history is incredible. Born into slavery, he was also a writer, and he was attacked by the KKK, his family, and he was attacked. And I interviewed, it's extraordinary stories. I interviewed a church, come to find out, a church in North Carolina. In their backyard was the graves of Eli's Hale grave was in the backyard, and the church for the last 5 years have really preserved, the graveyard, and really kept his story alive. His story is incredible. He's one of the first people that took the KKK to court and won. And although he took him to court, he realized that him and his friends and family was not safe because, of course, at that time, 1819 to 1872. So at that time, he and the Black community was attacked. So he led a community to a country in Africa. Because he's like, okay, I can't live here no more. I took it as far as I could. I took the KKK to court, but I'm still not safe. And so he led people to Africa to get what, if we can read a little bit, I don't think he led people to Libya. Anyway, so yeah, you can go and read that. And I also did an audio version of this. So, I show this because I call it Black Disabled Resistance. So there's a huge history of Black disabled resistance that we still don't know. I interviewed the Blind Boys of Alabama gospel group that told me about their resistance in their Jim Crow schools, where their resistance was to come together and sing. And so Black Disabled Resistance is there. I did part 1 and part 2. You can go and on SoundCloud and check that out. Part 1 and part 2. And I say, is that we resist and we also build at the same time. So we need to really check all of these Black disabled resistance stories, and also at the same time we build. And that's what I'm trying to do with Black radical tradition, trying to build a Black Krip radical tradition. And also my PhD program is really going back to Krip Hop. What I really want to do with Krip Hop is to open up the Krip Hop Institute. We're going to open up virtually first, because as we all know, that the airlines and transportation getting to a place is very difficult for people with disabilities, because our government doesn't really implement our laws. So to make it more accessible, we want to do a virtual institute, Krip Hop Institute first, which is going to be really interesting. The Krip Hop Journey chapter is the one that I'm working on because they had the technology experience. So anyway, they are coming to the Bay Area in May, and we are going to sit down and talk about the Krip Hop Institute. So getting back to, I want to talk about the illusion of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because from my point of view, disability people have always been here since Moses. So this whole diversity and inclusion, I think it's just a circle that keeps us going on in circles. What really needs to happen is that government needs to really implement and fully fund our laws. I mean, that's all to it. You know, IDEA has never been fully funded since the beginning, and when Biden was running the first term, and I guess he woke up for a second, saying that he's going to fully fund IDEA because I guess there was some disabled people working on his campaign, and everybody was so happy. And it's like, let's think about it. You've been in office for how many years? You've been in office since that law was passed. So you're gonna wake up in 2000 something say you're gonna fully fund it. So and of course he hasn't yet. So once again, we need to push our government to really do the work. I mean, this inclusion diversity thing is a program, but our laws need to be fully funded, and that's up for the government to do. And it's up for us to push our government to do that. So another turning point in my work around Blackness and disability was the late Christopher Bell. And Christopher Bell was a disabled scholar and disability studies. And of course, in the early 90s, he wrote a paper called Disability Studies is Too White. So I wonder, where have we come so far in 2024? Are we still at Christopher Bell's question? Have we progressed? And has disability studies, come into Black studies? Like I'm trying to do with the Black radical tradition. So these are the questions that that we still need to answer. And a Black activist, Thomas, did a hashtag a couple years ago called "Disability is Too White." So we constantly asking and using, mostly white disabled folks in their theories, but we need to push, cry, heal, educate, and work in the Black community with Black theories, history, activism, art, music, studies, and Black families. And why I say Black families, because everything starts with the family. And that's one thing that I realized when the independent living movement started, is that it really came up with a cultural shock because a lot of Black families and people of color say, well, it's not about the individual, it's about the family. So that tells us that that Black people need our own theories, our own way of looking at things, and that's what Black disability movement in the UK were saying. They were saying that even the social model of disability did not really look at race and racism. Yes, it's a step forward from the medical model, but still, it did not look at the racism and the race of disabled people of color. And I think I know that's why Citizen Valley was born and Disability Justice was born, to really say that to the disability community that race, and the issue of race and racism still needs to be worked out. But like I said in the beginning, I think one of the downfalls of our work in Citizen Valley is that we did not have a chance to really get deep into the Black and brown community. So we can see that disability justice is everywhere, deep, except the Black and brown community, and that's the work that needs to happen. So I'm gonna leave with a song. I was gonna share the letter, dear Cedric, but I think that's gonna be too long. I really want to have an open discussion. So let me see. So we're gonna play this song called Black Krip Radicalization. And it's a poem song that I did around the concept of Black Krip radicalization. Then we can open up for questions. Is that good for everybody?
That's great. We are going to have to wrap up after this song, I think, and then.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Well, we'll have to leave it until your next.
Black Krip radicalization, fire, no liberals here. Listen up, more than your ears. Black silence everywhere. It's a process. Not satisfied what mainstream gives us. Collectively come for a meal. Knowing what's fake and what's real. Fire, the heat is on. Fire, can't get no higher. Black Krip radicalization. Fire, no liberals here. Listen up, more than your ears. Black silence everywhere. Black Krip radicalization, beyond awareness. Black community use this pity when you take a piss. Black ableism hits us. Kiss goodbye, Black on Black. Don't divide, don't conquer, no self-attack. My sisters and brothers got my back. Fire, the heat is on. Fire, can't get no higher. Black Krip radicalization. Fire, no liberals here. Listen up, more than your ears. Black silence everywhere. Black power, Black Krip coming together. Black Krip time. Hip hop, kick it out, boom, back, grind. Fire, no liberals here. listen up more than your ears. Black signs everywhere. Fire, fire, fire. The heat is on. Fire, fire, fire. Can't get no higher. Black quick radicalization. It's a process. Not satisfied what they to give us. Click, home for a meal. Knowing what's thinking what's real. Fire, fire, fire. No liberal fear. Listen up more than your ears.
Okay, I'll leave it there. I know we ran out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Leroy. I think we are going to have to wrap up at 11:45, but I think there were a lot of things. I know I had a lot of questions and a lot to talk about, and I think we'll just have to have you back for a fourth visit to our campus. I know I speak for my colleagues when they say there are a lot of conversation starters here. A lot to talk about. We have, does anybody, Jessica or Jess or Tiffany, do you want to jump in with any quick thoughts?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for this presentation. You've raised so many important activist arguments that intersect with like many struggles that continue both here and around the world. And so there's so many exciting things that you're working on, and I just want to encourage you to keep working, and thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry for the audience. Then I'm the ask questions like that. Like I said, I always pack my agenda. So
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Dr. Jones said and say thank you so much for being here. We do have a copy of one of Leroy Moore's books in the neurodiversity space here on our campus, so please come and check out his amazing work. And thank you to the speaker group that I'm honored to collaborate with on this amazing event. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody. We will. I wish we had. I wish we had all day to talk because I have all the questions and I want to talk with you again, Leroy. So seriously, I'm looking forward to your next visit. And I hope.
The next visit, I'm just listening. I don't want to talk. I just listen.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Take care.